Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Get in Tune. I feel like I'm looking at a very dirty studio right now. I'm sorry, right there. Welcome. I have a great show tonight. I'm going to be talking to a good friend of mine, talented fantasy artist, talented fantasy map maker, um, Andrew Frank Rodriguez. But before we get to him, I just want to remind everyone that today another whiz went up on at the Whiz Comic on both Facebook and Instagram. I did not have a chance to get it ready to show tonight like I've been doing for the last couple of weeks, but I wanted to let you know it is up there. So it is at THEWIZCOMIC. All right. So I think Andrew and I got a lot to talk about tonight. There's going to be maybe some fun conversation. Well, definitely fun conversation, but we'll see how the topics go. I really want to discuss his work, though. He's got some really great stuff. So let me bring on Andrew. Hey.
Hey, everyone. How you doing? Hey, Michael. How you doing?
I'm doing good tonight. Much better. Actually, I didn't tell you this backstage, but yesterday I was literally in bed sick all day. Thought it was sinuses. I don't know. I just think I was doing too much, and my body just said, you need to stop. And you need to sleep the majority of the day away. And that's kind of what I did.
Yep. You don't want to work yourself to the point where it's a forced rest.
Yeah, I had a little low grade fever. I had some chills, had body aches, the whole thing. And there was some sinus issues. And so I thought, but man, yesterday was a rough day for me. Today I'm feeling probably 85% better. So hopefully another night of a good night's sleep will
some chicken soup.
No, listen, all I've been doing is basically having soup. Yesterday my wife and I ordered Chinese for dinner, and I just got soup, and I got two different soups. Got a large hot and sour, and I got a large wonton, and wonton for tomorrow.
A couple of friends of mine this weekend, because of the Lunar New Year celebration, we went for hot pot. And it was just it's been so long. Yeah. So anything where you have slices of meat and vegetables put in boiling water just clears the sinuses up and everything.
Oh, that stuff sounds delicious right now. Oh man, I could go for more food, but yeah, I'm not going to do anything until my soup tomorrow. I still got leftover wonton, so.
Awesome.
It was a hard decision to make. I do love hot and sour, so. But anyway, let's not talk about food. Let's talk about.
I could talk about food all day. That's right.
Believe me, I'm shaped enough to talk about food. My body shape definitely says I can do that. But anyway, let's get on to you here. Let's talk about. Let's talk about Andrew. So for those who haven't seen you before on here, and this is your second solo appearance on here. You've been on with other people before. Tell us a little bit about the type of work that you do and where they can find your work.
Sure. For the past few years, I've been working on and off again for exclusively with a bunch of game creator content creators and different just indie game creators, and I've been drawing their maps, I've been drawing characters, and I've been drawing items and gaming assets that they use for their games. So if let's say you wanted a character, and also when people message me, and most of the time it's people who want their Dungeons and Dragons / gaming characters / sci-fi characters to be brought to life as I draw them, their characters from their description. And it's been very lucrative, it's been very fulfilling, because I also help them bring to life their characters that they've played in game for maybe. I got one person who have drawn his character. He's been the same character for 10 years.
Wow.
So that's 10 years of his life, and he's never had a definitive character, and I was able to facilitate that for him. He absolutely enjoyed it. And also great, the fact he just it's bragging rights. Look, I got an artist to draw my character. Here it is. They could use that character forever. And hopefully they don't get it killed.
Yeah.
Because I give them the sign of cross. Or, but yeah, it's amazing that most of my artwork has been featured in books, has been featured in three three gaming settings, and two of them of which are on an umbrella under the umbrella of like a certain Dungeons and Dragons property that's been OGL'd, or it had been, or has been how we say a homebrew turned adventure, and also one official license, like one official game world called that. It's amazing. I'm actually quite honored because I've been doing this for 10 years, just drawing people's characters and maps for my personal benefit and possibly my own personal mental fortitude. But I enjoyed it. I absolutely enjoy the work. And right now I have like a project coming up, and then two projects that are kind of like in a standstill, but that's neither here or there right now. But I'm absolutely willing to draw anyone's character if they have an idea, if they're playing their Dungeons & Dragons character. Contact me, and I'll give you a fair price.
Awesome. I just want to say hi to Dylan in the audience. He says hi to both of us. So hello.
Hello, Dylan.
I wanted to ask you, and I don't know if I ever asked you this on a show or just, when we were in person or whatever, but how did you get into drawing maps?
Oh, I've been drawing maps ever since I started D&D. One of the jobs and I shouldn't say jobs, is like basically very amazing things that dungeon masters do is just draw dungeons and dungeon layouts just for games. So I started drawing maps for that principle, just going with my group and drawing entire homebrew systems, or even within systems. I would draw their characters, and this is just how I started. Like I started with just giving people like a visual representation of what I was describing, because sometimes my words and also my art couldn't, as you can see, my words, I befuddled a lot of stuff. So here is an image which I can then later describe better.
Yeah.
And so that's how it started. Like it really did start like most. I'm gonna say like from every person who's ever built a map or built a dungeon out of like styrofoam and XPS foam. It all started with like just drawing a notebook because they just wanted to entertain friends. That's it. It really did started like from day one of me playing D&D. Like I would periodically find my notebooks from back in the day, but oh my God, this is from 1999. Oh my God, this is from 2002. And this, like, and I pretty much started playing D&D in 96 with the advent of the Magic the Gathering cards.
Mm-hmm.
And also, while you're buying a Magic the Gathering cards, there was always all these like second edition, first edition books. And the really crazy thing is I didn't start off playing Dungeons and Dragons. I started playing off a really popular game in the 90s, which is called Rifts, and also World of Darkness. That's the vampire one.
Yeah.
Rifts was basically a kitchen sink and everything in setting. And then I picked up like a second edition, and the rest was history. But really, it wasn't just me saying, hey, I could draw this, and I need you to, this is how the other dungeon works. And that's how I started. I really started just for my personal entertainment and my personal party's entertainment. This was like back in 2000. Oh, yeah, before that, like 1999, 1998.
Okay.
So like, yeah, and I'm going to tell you right now, that's 99% of most people map maker story.
Yeah. I mean, no, listen, I mean, I've DM'd, I've drawn the maps, but I never fell in love with it. Like you did. Like, see, as an artist, as someone who does comics or even animation, when I plan out a scene, sometimes I draw a map of like the room that I'm in, and then I can see it from different angles and be like, okay, where's my character going to be? If they got punched at this part and they're flying to this part, what's it going to look like? Like, so I always drew little, like, if you want to use the word maps, that they were maps, but it was just little reference, you
Yep.
know. And I tend to do that quite a bit, even to this day. But I never fell in love with the idea of like when I see you drawing, like you'll do your live streams or I've seen the maps that you've drawn in person. The attention to detail that you put in them, I never fell in love with that, and I think that's just amazing because it's not a skill set that I have, and I'm always amazed and inspired by people who have the skill sets that I don't have.
And what's really important for me to like always, when I draw my maps, and it's one of the, even when I draw my background arts,
Mhm.
one of the fundamental things that kind of strikes people sometimes is the absence of people in my drawings. So like it's just the maps, it's just all these cities,
Yeah.
but the absence of people, it also makes like one friend of mine says it's kind of eerie. You're pretty much just looking at empty, like entire civilizations, but just empty, and it kind of freaked him out a bit because he pretty much says, well, every single one of them is just one big dungeon crawl. Like I'll show
Yeah.
you one right here. It's
Let me give you the screen so we can.
yeah.
Can
So
see.
you see like one of these big drawings here, like right here. Like, and I think I posted this like maybe a month ago or 2 months ago, and
Yeah,
I've just
that's beautiful.
been adding it, right? But if you look close enough, and if you spend like maybe 20, 30 minutes, you'll find there's no people at all in these empty streets. So you have all this beautiful background, and there's just no people. Now, the beauty of that is if you're playing a D&D game, you're going to be the person exploring that location.
Yeah.
And so that is like, it pretty much gives everyone that theater of the mind. So I'm trying to capture the theater of the mind of people playing in that realm space. So
Yeah.
it's an empty city, except for the except the person who's viewing it. So you are looking at this city. So I actually felt like that was one of my, and I kind of learned this later. It's not earlier. It just happened. Like this is just like I draw empty cities and I don't draw people. I started drawing people in certain scenes now, and people are enjoying it like it's like a Where's Waldo kind of thing. Like, oh, there's a person and all that rubble. It's like, oh my God, there's a like now I'll show you
Let's get you that
another
screen
one.
again.
But no, if I don't find it, don't worry about it because
Okay.
it's in a big mess right now because it's the one I'm drawing just for live. Okay, so you have like a scene like this.
Hold on.
Like you have a scene like this, and it's
Mhm.
just like a robot destroyed an entire like post-apocalyptic world straight out of like I don't know, like a robot apocalyptic world. But then there's a person right here, and there's a
Mhm.
person right on top of the robot. But if you don't spot it, if you don't carefully look at it, he won't spot it. So it's like these are like the little telltale signs. That's all good and all, but right now, I'm like actually right now like just in a standstill, hopefully like people take a look at my work right now and just get me into like their books. And I've been very fortunate. Like it really has been a really decent journey because now I'm going to be doing a couple of Bronx shows. I'm going to try to get into the Bronx show in August. So I'm trying to get into another show in Jersey. A lot of my winter schedule has been like just bogged down because of personal family issues and personal family health issues. But right now, it's really amazing. Which I know, like if you're the creator of the Wiz, you also you will like to create your world space around your character.
Yeah.
And I always believe it's like my brain would be like I would always wonder what your characters or any other all my other friends' characters, what would their maps look like? What would the Wiz laboratory would look like? What would his like a place where he chills out would look like? It's what would his mount be? What would his like? Does he have like a mount? Does he have like a magic carriage or horseless carriage? Stuff like that. And I think I build on that. Like I actually build on backgrounds.
You know, it's actually funny you say that because the Wiz to me has never had an actual like real location. He's a I kind of made his home magical in the sense where if I need it, it exists. You know,
Yeah,
it's like he hangs out on the couch a lot with Ajax's bird. He's done
yeah,
that quite often. There's one I drew a kitchen in, and I decided to go with a modern kitchen instead of like a medieval looking kitchen. Um, and then there are times where like I haven't drawn his lab in the comic yet, but then it looks like it's something out of like a medieval, uh, wizard's lab. So it's like some days everything looks fine, so it looks modern. Other days it looks, you know,
right.
very old school, and it's like, I never really defined the look, and I'm still playing with that. Um, where I actually have a comic in mind that might explain what's going on,
Yeah.
and it's about the Wiz. I don't have the jokes finalized, but it's basically the Wiz. It would be a few strips of him redecorating the house.
See, like,
So it's
yeah, it's
but
like, here's the funny thing. Like, I think because even though I read Lord of the Rings a lot,
yeah,
and I don't believe Gandalf had a place, an official place that he stayed.
yeah,
He was literally the wandering wizard. So I don't
yeah,
think so like in that scope of wizards, he's a wandering wizard. He wouldn't have places to stay. I think he'll have cache areas, places where
mhm,
he could rest for a night, and he'll have like maybe like a cache spot where he could just throw a couple of things. But then you have like other cool wizards that are out there, like from D&D, which they have like the pretty much like the one that Gary Gygax created was basically his name in reverse, Xgac or something like that.
mhm,
Wizard Xgac, his tower was pretty much an adventure. So he
mhm,
would have to draw the adventure of people going into this tower that goes like 10 stories up and 10 stories down, like kind of like what is above as be up below, kind of like this alchemical kind of,
yeah.
reference and stuff like that, allegory, whatever. But but yeah, but when I'm drawing maps, when I'm drawing backgrounds, it's always like the central question is, who am I drawing for? Who are the
Yeah.
people here? It's like I would love to see my own characters come to life. I really would have liked to do a character. I would love to do a character. I have so many characters now, and yet have yet to put them in official capacity.
Well, we need
And
a comic out of you, man.
I,
We need a story.
yeah, I was like, I can pretty much point to a character and say this guy would be great in this map. Now let me see. Here's the story, and I usually play these stories out in a D&D or role playing fashion. So that's kind of a cool thing to do. So I've been doing
Yeah,
this all my life, and
yeah.
that's to answer your first question. I'm sorry, it's been like 10 minutes to answer that one question, but yeah, it really was a labor of love of me drawing other people's characters, wondering how would they interact within my game space and my game world, which then becomes like a collaborative kind of experience where pretty much like every every role playing session, you're the player, I'm the game master. I tell you the world, and you get to play in it. It's an amazing relationship, and also great for drawing, great for creating art.
Now, let me ask you a question about this here. You were mentioning how you have a bunch of characters, you just haven't really done like anything 100% with them in the sense of, I guess, bringing them to life in a story for the public, right? Is that
Yeah,
what you were? Okay. Are you thinking of going the route of like a campaign with them, or as like a comic? What's your, or even if it was a prose book with images inside, what's your thoughts on how you would bring your characters to life?
well, the funny thing is, like, if I usually write characters out, so I actually have like their backstories all out. So
Mhm.
like, it's funny that if you ever read a comic book, if you ever read a comic book story, you have the character description in the back of the comic and the story description in the back of the comic. I have that jotted down. I just haven't had the story yet. For some reason, like the marriage, me bringing a story of marrying the not being like marriage, but marrying my background content to my to a story. It's kind of like me trying to find the right story for my characters, and what I want to really do is, like, I do have right now a good story, and so I've been writing it down. I've been really wanting to, and I've been pushing forward because I've been playing this story in my head, and also playing with my friends this story. And I if you ever been to any of my group sites, because I'm always gladly letting people come into my Facebook group page, the story all those players can tell you are part of, or once upon a time was part of that story. Like, they actually have played that story.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and it's kind of like a horror film, and also kind of like a sci-fi, and it's also kind of like has elements that, of course, you take from movies, and things that I thought cool, and things I thought that were cool, and things that you took from books and things. So, like, yeah, my story is pretty much right now. It seems to be like, as I keep reading, it's that new Japanese trend called an isekai, which is basically, well, I'm not having someone hit by a truck and they transport into another world. It's pretty much that you're a character who just pretty much arrives to a world, and now he has to search for navigate it. And it's kind of like what most D&D players do anyway. So yeah. So it's going to be in that realm of like a fantasy mixed with a sci-fi fantasy.
No,
and yeah, I do have one. Like, but it's really is like, oh, it's a lot of work, and I've been like pushing it forward. And I actually have like 12 pages written, but I have like 150 pages of just backyard content that it needs to be. So it's like I'm doing the big bulk work first.
Yeah.
And I need to now write the story.
Yeah. I will. First of all, I would love to see a story from you. Your mind with the way fantasy and sci-fi and all that stuff works, I would love to read it, whether it's a comic, prose book, whatever it is. I mean, I'm just totally into that.
What's fabulous about it is, like, fantasy and sci-fi, it's all kind of like a wish fulfillment, and also comic books. So yeah, I pretty much have to say, what would I do if I was a character in a book, or what would, because I'm going to tell you right now, every single creator has put on this Spider-Man suit in their head, wishing that they were Spider-Man.
Oh yeah. I still walk around the house whipping at things in my
right. You know? Like, hey, I even do the Jedi thing when the automatic doors open and close. I do that Jedi thing all the time.
Who doesn't do that? I see people doing that. I catch them doing it. I do it. I don't care. I'll do it in front of people, you know.
But yeah, right now it's the thing is, I need to get my butt into work to do it. It's really is. And the thing is, there is work there already.
You know, it's funny because my day job, I'm obviously I'm in New York. I work Pacific time, so I work 11:30 in the morning to 8:30 p.m. at night, which is a little weird, you know, when you got to get until you get used to it. But it leaves my mornings open for things. But here's the thing. I'm like, oh, you know what's going to be great about this job? My mornings are going to be free, that I could get up and do work. But because my body is on 2 different time zones, I'm not going to bed till like 1 in the morning, sometimes later, that I'm not waking up early enough to do work all the time in the morning. You know, it's just a really weird thing. But I got to set a schedule for myself, and this is what I'm planning to do, is that I have a set thing, because there's a book in me. There's a prose book in me I've been wanting to write. And I want to give myself an hour a day before I start work where I just focus on this book. That's it. I mean, I would love to give more to it, but if I can give 1 hour a day, I think I can have the book done in about 2 months.
what's amazing, we all have cell phones with recorders,
Yeah.
right? So you're like, I have a book. I want to write a book. I don't want to. I can't type right now, so I want to record. The minute you hit the record button, it's just like, what am I gonna say? And
Listen,
so
I'm not
it's even that. Like, there's even
12
like,
pages in here. 12 pages of a story in here.
right.
About
So
40 on my computer though.
like I like right now, like I have my Google Docs, and you're like, I want to write my game. I have this great game story. I don't want to write, so they let me narrate. And then I'm looking after what I spoke and what it narrated. It's like, what the hell heck is this? I was like, you failed me. Like, you failed me.
Oh,
Voice
that
command
autocorrect, yeah.
typing. Yeah.
That autocorrect feature is annoying.
So like right now, it's I have right now it's a wait and see. So I'm not gonna wait and see. I'm just gonna move on, and I'm just gonna start like just doing projects on my own.
Yeah.
I have a fabulous idea of grabbing a bunch of friends of mine who I can afford to pay and to do this book. I also want to do like just hang out with them to play any kind of game or even just chit chat, and I do that as well.
Yeah.
And right now, it's just been like 2003 came around, and everyone's like, it's January, so we're still in that lull, first year lull. And so like right now, I'm just like, like I'm focusing on what I want to do next because like I said, something happened in the community which kind of put everyone in a stalemate for a moment.
Is that something you want to discuss tonight?
Not. I would discuss only certain pros with it, except for like I just kind of feel bad for a lot of content creators
Yeah.
who are now in the same situation as I am. But I mean, there is a better tomorrow, so you don't know what's going to happen. Everything's right now. It's very uncertain.
Okay.
It's a big uncertainty right now. So
I
I don't
agree.
want to really discuss it. But
Okay.
I'm not the raging YouTuber with the fist up in the air
Yeah,
because
no,
I think
that's
that's kind of, yeah, for me I think it's kind of self-serving because after the dust is cleared, I don't want to make any enemies for people who I'd intended to.
mhm.
Like, and this community is very gracious and very humble and honorable, even from the tops to the bottom. They're even to the top of the food chain and to the bottom of the food chain. They're just very well-meaning people who are
Yeah.
just wanting to like just protect and grow their businesses. It's how it just. I feel bad. I
Well,
feel bad about a lot of things, but like right now, it's like I want to. Right now, I'm hoping to be that intermediary of be like healing. Hey guys, move on here. Maybe you should move on there. Maybe we should
yeah.
just take a wait and see. Or if you want to work in something else, it's a weird situation where in the beginning of the month, I'm so thrilled that they're coming out with. I mean, right now, I'm actually. I promised myself I will never wait
Mhm.
to watch a show, but
Yeah.
Last of Us came out around, and I'm willing to wait the entire like month every Monday to watch it. So like, there are just certain fans who will be willing to wait and see. There's a lot of other fans who are just like, we're going to just move on, and that's
Yeah.
the trend of things.
Well, I don't want to go into the whole thing because
No,
it is a big thing. All I want to say for the people who are watching, if you don't know what we're talking about, the people in charge of D&D want to change the open gaming license. I don't want to say anything more about it, but what it will do, like Andrew said, could hurt some creators. All right. And there's a lot of outrage in the gaming community about it right now. What I want to say is, as someone who runs his own business, even though I may not 100% approve of how they went about it, I understand what they were trying to do.
mm,
As a gamer and as someone who loves the game and would love to continue to build off the game, whether I make money off it or not, I'm not happy about what they did. Um,
like you said before too,
Yeah.
man. We're still playing the games, man.
That's what I was going to say. You can still play your game. You can be mad at them for doing these things, but you don't have to stop your games. You
You
know.
know what? It's not going to stop me from buying minis,
Hmm.
right? It's not going to stop me from buying minis, painting them, right? It's not going to stop me from building magnificent XPS foam and cardboard Dungeons and Dragons 3-dimensional things.
Dude, your
It's not going to
stuff
stop
is.
the.
I'm sorry. By the way, that stuff is fantastic that you do in 3D. I just want to let you know.
Oh, I finally started posting some stuff, yeah, and like, but what I'm trying to like, but yeah, but it's never going to stop me because
No.
it's part of my creative outlet. The
Yeah.
cool thing is, like, I'm actually honored that I got to work for them because it's a dream come true.
Yeah.
Even though people like you should not be happy about it, but what they're doing, I was like, I'm a comic book guy. I've seen. This is not new to us for
Yeah.
comic books. And if you play video games, it's not new to us either. Like I mean, it's just the way business, like the business trend goes.
Yeah.
Now, here's the funny thing is, there's a movie coming out too. So I'm going to go sit there and watch the movie. I'm going to see my gal, Michelle Rodriguez playing I'm not sure if she's a barbarian or a fighter. All I know is she's
Yeah.
freaking awesome in it, just from the cut.
Yeah. I don't know what she is. I will say that I liked what I've seen, but I've kind of had some mixed reviews.
Yeah,
Not reviews of what I've heard, what I've seen. I'm like kind of
yeah.
like I cannot remember the guy, the main actor there, the what's his name?
The guy from Star Trek,
Yeah, I
Chris
don't.
Pines. Chris
Yeah,
Pines.
I'm not a huge Chris Pines fan,
Yeah,
and
but I like the fact that I like I'm not a Chris. I'm not a big like Chris playing. Like he played. He played in Star Trek. I wasn't a big fan of that Star Trek
mhm,
because it's like Star Trek has always been like kind of a stuffed shirt kind of.
mhm,
You have to be a little more of a stuffed shirt, and it was a little
yeah,
more playful of the. Uh,
but that
I
is
like
some.
part 3 though, but yeah,
You
but
know, I still haven't seen part 3, but that is something he does well. He could pull off, some kind of comedy a little bit. I will say he's got. I just think he gets in the wrong roles a lot of the time. You
yeah,
know, I
that could happen too. Yeah.
he's always typecast as the good-looking romantic lead type of stuff, and which is fine. He's a good-looking guy, but I feel he could do much better if he was doing comedies more than anything.
He looked it looked hilarious. Now,
Hmm.
what I'll give you right now is like what I'll give you about the movie. Like, here's the thing: what's going to happen is going to happen.
Yeah.
So, I know I myself read that same Gizmodo about the. I read the same Gizmodo email, the same Game Rant not email, but web
Yeah, I know. I know.
story site.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a big breakthrough, and my only concern is like in the end, once the cloud settles, what's the good and the bad and the ugly of what's going to happen? A
Yeah.
movie, you're just going to be like, it's good or it's crap. Because
Yeah.
I remember the first D&D movie. It was with a lot of B actors and Marlon Wayans, and I remember watching it going, okay, like,
You know what?
and what was it, Jeremy Irons overacting because I want to
Yeah,
be out of here.
but you know what? I will say this: when I saw it, I remember watching it with some friends, and they asked me what I thought. I said it's definitely not D&D, but it was a fun fantasy film. I just was like, it was like I wouldn't say it's something like I would want to watch over and over again, but it was definitely just like it took me out of my mind for a while, but it didn't have that feel of D&D that I was hoping for.
Right. Like, here's the thing. Like, you have like people have this thing where fantasy has to be that,
Mhm.
where it doesn't have like fantasy has to be Dungeons and Dragons, which it doesn't have to.
Yeah.
You could have fantasy a fantasy setting that's as dark as The Witcher, because The Witcher has has that Slavic, Eastern European folk, very dark, dreary aesthetic. So
Yeah.
it is not, it is, if you ever watched any movies or read any mythology of that region, that's where the Strigoi vampires and werewolves come from. That's where, it's dark, the term dark fairies come from. You have all these the things people who go missing in the Black Forest kind of stories, and really dark fairy tales. You have that region. And it could be as light as the Smurfs, which I love the Smurfs because I drew the Smurfs, and everyone loves me when I draw my Smurfs because
I was just watching them the other day. I'm a huge fan of the Smurfs. I love Peo, by the way, is one of my all-time favorite artists. And if I'm sure you know this, but to the audience, if you know anything about Peo's history, or just the Smurfs history, they weren't the first story he was doing. He was doing the Johan and Pee Wee stuff. And the Smurfs made an appearance in that, and that's where they became popular. He also had a great book, Benny Breakiron, which I love. And I never read his Pussycat stories, but I want to read the Pussycat stories because, first of all, I love cats. I used to have a black cat who passed away a few years back, but and it's supposed to be a comedic piece. I've seen a couple of strips online, but I haven't read like the stuff. And supposedly there's a book that's supposed to be out or coming out. The thing is, Paper Cuts, at least last time I looked, owned the rights to the Smurfs books, and to the the Peo properties, if you will, like Johan and Pee Wee and stuff like that. Because I have some, on my shelf over there, I have a Benny Breakiron book, and I got a bunch of the Smurfs. So I just want to go to the comments. Michael Weber says, "Greetings, Michael and Andrew. Hey, thanks for tuning in." But yeah. So I'm sorry to interrupt, Peo fans. Any of those Franco-Belgian artists, I love.
Yeah, because
go ahead.
Right. Here's the thing. Like, I grew up with Jean Grenade, who did all the great. He did Morbius, and that's kind of fantasy sci-fi, but it's like high intense sci-fi. But he also did like a cool Western called Blueberry. So like so these are like these guys who are like these French writers, and there's also got these German writers who are really cool. And now let's move on to let's build, people be like, okay, let's build properties on that. Let's see who likes these. Okay, let's play a game. Like, I actually played an RPG version of the Smurfs that was made a friend of mine. So like, I literally had to pick a Smurf with a power, because I think at season 4 they were all getting like these power. So I called my guy Nowhere Spice. Well, it's not Smurf, like Nowhere Smurf. Why am I thinking Spice Girls? Sorry. Is that up your life? Sorry. No. But my character was called Nowhere Smurf, and Nowhere Smurf was like a Smurf who went missing. Like, he basically blinked out of existence and then came back with like a story of like, and he had like a pirate hat, and he had like, and then he'll be like, but it's all because if he was frightened, he wants to hide. Oh my God, Gargamel, poof, gone. And when he was like, where is he? I puffed back and I was like, here's a conquistador helmet. Where do you get that? I can't talk about that. What happened to me? Like, so, and like, we played this game where this character just blinked out of the back and forth through time. And I remember, because one of my favorite ones was Smurfs in Time as a kid. I used to read that. I used to read that comic all the time, and I used to saw the cartoon as well, where apparently the Smurfs can go back in time because of Grandpa Smurf and Papa Smurfs has like an amulet to turn.
I'm
going to go into my weird like scope of things that people don't normally know, but yeah, it was one of those, like, when I saw Hidden Village, I loved Hidden Village, and so like, but I've played games where people have used they've used the OGL and they made like a cool game out of it. And it was actually a 3rd edition version of the Smurfs. Everyone was a 3rd edition Smurf. It's kind of cool. And like, again, the coolness of that is that people can come up with any kind of story, and they can use a game system. They can make up their own game system.
Yeah.
And you can, like, I don't want to touch on it, but the simple fact is, yeah, a lot of content creators uh, have great stories to tell, and it was a cool avenue.
Yeah.
It was a very cool avenue. But I remember reading an interview with Peo, and he came up with it because he believed that there were fairies behind his house.
Mhm.
Right?
Is that I? You know what? I don't remember that. There was actually a documentary I put on during my lunch hour while I was eating my lunch, and I kind of it was subtitled, but it's a Peo documentary subtitled in English, and I watched about 15 minutes of it, but I wasn't paying attention to the imagery, just focusing on the subtitles. So I'm like, I got to stop because I keep looking down to scoop up my soup, and I'm like, I'm missing
Yeah.
stuff. So I got to watch it, but I don't
No,
remember
yeah, but
exactly
I
what the
remember
story
that
stands for.
documentary, dude. Like, if you look at his house and
Mhm.
you look at his home, like his house, like I think he was like somewhere like very rural area, or not rural, but kind of like mixed rural, mixed modern town. It kind of looked like it was a kid who had enjoyed his time in the forest. You know, it's like
Yeah.
pretty much like
Well, I do remember from what I saw. Um, oh God, what was it? That he kind of grew up in. Was it a woodsy area? He kind of like just a regular area where you had yeah, kind of suburban, but it had woods and stuff there.
yeah,
You know. I think that's kind of how he grew up. I do remember he got his name Peo by his family not being able to pronounce his actual name.
yeah.
That I know. But that's about as much as I got from the video. I got to watch more and
Yeah, dude.
get you.
No, well. Let's get back to the topic of
Yeah, sorry.
D&D. Sure, but let me get back to the topic of D&D. Yeah, there's a lot of cool games out there right now. Like if you wanted to create your Wiz character in a let's just say game fashion,
Mm-hmm.
well, you can come up with your own, which is kind of again, like I'll say to everyone, when you're coming up with your own game mechanic, it is probably the longest process because this is the math part of this is where all the bells, whistles, and nuts and bolts have to come in. You have to make sure that your world is somewhat sound. You're not going to get it right the first time. You're always going to come out with a gazette that fixes something. It's just happened. So
Mm-hmm.
what? And it's another thing. It's a good way of selling more gazettes and more content. You'd be like, "Hey, I got this new rule, and I got this new content, and I came up with this new cool idea, and here's the gazette for you, and it's just a supplement, you know, just like, and again, like we pay it, we'll buy it, we'll grab it, and we'll get it.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's one way of doing it. The other one was going for in the cool, and now you're seeing more open license and like open license style. I don't want to say like open game license because that's there, but you're going to see more licensing out there for the benefit of the community, and a lot of it's just plug and play,
Yeah.
and then a lot of them are pretty much you need to sink your teeth in.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of like, and the coolness of it is you're just having another game in the market that could work or not work, but you still at least have your game in the market. I have a friend of mine who made a game with Muppets. Like he pretty much wants, well, not Muppets, but puppets kind of things. But you can do like a puppet thing. You could do like a marionette kind of Muppet thing, or you could just use like a Muppet thing. I have
Yeah.
another friend of mine who created a great story where it's pretty much you're just a man hanging out in like the woods, and you're pretty much like it's kind of like a survival RPG, and you play as a group of survivalists. I've met a guy who made one just on the pureness of spelunking and what you can find in the caverns of it pretty much game mechanics is a cavern setting. I myself bought a book that looks very beautiful, and it's kind of like swimming with Echo the dolphin from like Genesis era. You know, just
Oh wow.
and
Yeah. I remember that.
you're just like living in the ocean. You have all these guys who are like big fans of Sea Hunter and Sequest and you know,
That
and they're
that's
just
that. I'm sorry. I was just gonna say
and
that
there's just
that's
so many as there's so many Stargate / Star Trek / Babylon 5 / Star Wars slash, sci-fi stuff out there. You can go crazy.
and
So
that's the beauty of tabletop role playing in general, is you could really tell any story you want. I happen to have not noticed, but um, you know, when I used to do a lot of work with kids more than I do now. And I would talk to them about role playing games. And I would tell them, listen, just because someone uses the term Dungeons and Dragons or says that, it doesn't mean that's the game you need to play. I would explain to them how it's the most popular system out there, and you can create really anything you want. I said, there are games out there on Star Wars. There's games out there on TV shows and horror and whatever you want. I
right.
said, at the end of the day, if you wanted to do a story about fairy tales or a cartoon that you like, and I would just, and usually I use this as a storytelling program. And what I would end up doing with them is have them work a story out together,
Right.
where they were characters within the story, you know. And that was something I did. But and you were talking about how all these people. Friends and I were talking. We never got this off the ground. And I'm very upset we never did. But the idea was we were supposed to be members of GI Joe trying to escape a Cobra prison, and I was like that because we're all GI Joe fans, and I'm
Yep.
like, how great would that have been? Because we got a built-in team and stuff from the show that we can bring in all these NPCs that we need, and we're just our own soldiers, and we just play off the strengths of we gave the soldiers.
And the cool thing is, it could be as serious as GI Joe the comic book,
Yep.
or as silly as F Troop and Hogan's Heroes, and McHale's Navy. It could be as wacky to as serious as you want. And I love the fact that I would have loved to, man, dude. I would have been like, okay, I want to be like Snow Screen. Why? Because he's the one with the biggest. He had the biggest canoe and the biggest packaging, and he had all like these things. And he was like, he has all the best stuff in GI Joe. He came up with like this big package of GI Joe.
Yeah.
Virtually useless. It's like, it's not an Arctic adventure. Oh, dress. But it'd be amazing. Like GI Joe, of course. To be serious, I would have been a Snake Eyes character. Of course, everyone wants to be Snake Eyes. Everybody wanted to be Duke. Everybody wanted to be.
I wanted to be Shipwreck, man.
Shipwreck.
I love Shipwreck. I mean, here's a guy who's just basically a wise ass. He was supposed to be like a Jack Nicholson-esque character in his voice description, but in the comic, I liked him in the comic, but I knew him more from the car. I didn't read the comic till later. I got the cartoon first, so that's always been my major. And he's. Oh, there he is. He's next to my Snake Eyes right there.
Yeah.
I don't know. You can't see him. I'm probably blocking him, but
that's fine.
I got my
got
my pop right here of Shipwreck.
Shipwreck.
I got my hold on. I got my pop right here of Snake Eyes.
See, that's my dude right there.
And I love Snake Eyes as well. Well, and then I was just at Five Below the other day, and I saw two characters that I had to pick up. One was Snake Eyes. His sword doesn't move. It stays in the hand. You can't get it out. But I'm like, I don't care. It's Snake Eyes. I love it.
Yeah.
And probably my all-time favorite G.I. Joe villain. Destro right there, man.
Even with Robot Chicken making fun of them, it's just amazing. Even with Robot Chicken, like the advent of Robot Chicken and all the zaniness of that, and you can get your friends together and be like, okay. And here's the thing: you don't even have to come up with your own GI Joes. You could just pick a GI Joe you want to play. I want to be that one. I remember playing a game with. And it was at a convention, and it was right now. I think it was a few years back. I think like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, they came up with a Marvel superhero games. That's an RPG. There's always been a Marvel and a DC superhero games.
Yeah, I remember those.
And you pretty much You can pretty much make your own character in that world, or you can play an already made character.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine, we've been playing like in I think 2004. We were playing his game. My character was Iron Fist.
Oh, cool. I like Iron Fist.
So like like old school Danny Rand. And I remember like just punching, like rolling and roll. What happens? Okay, Green Goblin comes down, about to hit Spider-Man with his glider. He shoots all these pumpkins, and what do you do? It goes, well, I'm Iron Fist. I just jump, bypass all that, and punch his glider, and he goes flying. That happened. I rolled it. It happened. However, those missiles hit Spider-Man anyway. He pretty much, quote unquote, dies in that series. Now, I know a couple of people who also played Spider-Man and Batman, and they are now working for Marvel, and they are working for. And I read some of their comic books, and I'm like, dude, you recreated an event that I remember you doing and talking about back in the day. This is freaking amazing. Like the people who've actually had the opportunities to work for the big two, got to play with their fanfic from back in the day, and they brought it into main screen. Like, you just don't understand. Like, who would have thought? Like here's the thing. Like, you have actors who, like, now it's like, oh, we play D&D, and some of them are like, well, I played before, it was cool. And you have like people who are like now saying, well, I have the money, I'm going to make my own Dungeons & Dragons character. I'm going to make my own fantasy character. I mean, you have Vin Diesel who played the Witch Hunter. That was his own. I mean, you have like Harry Cavill, who's like, wait, I'm a big fan of the games of Witcher, and now I am the Witcher, and
well, he's no longer the Witcher.
But you know, that's the thing. It was just like, and that was another weird thing that in news that people were like, well, wait a minute, you had a guy who was willing to play the Witcher, even be like, wait, let me also be behind the scenes as well. But you have you just don't know. Like Ronda Rousey, one of my favorite female fighters, spending 15 minutes talking about Pokemon. She didn't talk about fighting. She talked about, well, back in the day when I was a girl, I had a gym. I had a gym league, and all these people I had a gym. I had made my own league, and like, so you just don't know. You just don't know who's. You have like actual like fighters and killers and weirdos and like I'm not saying killers, but you know, fighters, like they're,
no, I know what you mean.
Like, you know, like MMA fighters, and they're doing like, wait a minute, he just draw a death note on this dude. Like it is not like right now. It's not passe or chic to be. You know, it's not even chic anymore. It's like now mainstream to the point where you just don't know who. Like oh my God, you're the most prettiest man on the planet. You play Warhammer 40K. You like, you know, everyone. It's like yeah, and like you just don't know who plays. You have this Patton Oswalt who just would rant for hours about the games and stuff like that. So I'm sorry I'm going on a tangent, but
no, it's okay.
But right now, I don't see. Here's the thing, because I think it's like 45, 54 minutes I'm saying, but I don't think people's anger saying we're never going to play this game again. I don't believe that.
Yeah, I
can never believe that. I just think that's a knee-jerk reaction for somewhat news that we don't know. And the funny thing is, we really don't know the future of it. So take a positive aspect on it. You can still play the games. You can still dream. You can still play. You know, like you say, you can still play the game. You can still create. Just create. Become the competition. That's it.
Yeah,
that's all you have to do.
I mean, it is sad in what's going on just because of the way it was done. But the
way it was leaked too. It was
the way it was leaked. Yeah, it was leaked. I mean, but yeah, that's the thing. If it wasn't leaked, the problem wouldn't be here because people would have no choice. Actually,
yeah, it would be like surprise.
Like, surprise. This is it. But you know, listen, I know you've played a lot more than I have. All right. I just haven't had the opportunity lately to play. I'd love to play again. I don't care 100% what I play.
Yep.
I mean, I like tabletop role playing games. Have always been my favorite game. I
Yep.
like the idea of creating a character, playing that character, and hopefully having that character survive. You know, that's kind
Yeah.
of what it is. I like to be on the adventure with other people
Yep.
and having that socialization, that camaraderie, all that stuff, and that excitement. It, you know, because like, I mean, you know this, when you play D&D, yeah, you may sit down and play for an hour or 5 hours straight or whatever the hell it is. Everyone plays for has a different time period, but the game never ends. It's always like a serial in a way. Like, we're
Right.
coming back next time. And I've always loved the serialization. That's why I always prefer my comic strips to comic books. I love that serialization of them, you know, of every day or every week or whatever it is, as opposed to not just monthly, where I get more information. And that's one of the things I like. But that is, like, to me, the beauty of these games, to be able to hang out with people who just want to have a good time and go off on adventures. Whether you're, I mean, I usually won't play horror. I'm not a horror guy, but if you want to give me fantasy like D&D, or you want to give me science fiction or something else, I'm happy. I would honestly play a game having to try to figure out how to get across town if the
Yeah.
adventure, if the story is good there, you know. It could be just an everyday thing. Hey, look, I'm playing a kid who has to get to school, who missed the bus and they're running, and on the way they have to, outrun bullies and outrun whatever, and all these things for them that they encounter.
You could do that. You know, the funny thing about that is you could have, with your kids, you could take a real life Google map, print it.
Yeah.
And print just a small section of it. Here's your school, here's your houses, or quote unquote, just put X's of where your houses may be. But these are all your different starting points. And you can just say go. And it's pretty much, you could pretty much have competition versus each other, or you can have collaborative. Hey, you meet your friend along the way. And the one thing that never stops is the creation and the creativity that goes into that adventure. Yeah. What makes it stop is when you have a time constraint. Like, oh man, we're not finished, so we got to keep this back. We'll meet next time. And the cool thing is, it's a promise to meet next time. And it's always, and it's kind of sad when you have, like, I have a bunch of games that I never got to finish. But we always say, hey, man, it's been 4 years. You want to play that game? And guess what? It was just like yesterday for us. Yeah. Like, you're brought back to, like, I have a friend of mine who's played a superhero game in his own superhero comic world since the 90s. I have another friend of mine. I have my world that I've been had for 10 years. And it's kind of like a superhero campaign. It stopped because a lot of my friends moved out of town. And this is before the advent of course, what we have right now. Yeah. So we would then talk to each other. Hey, well, you want to play this game? So sure, I still think I have the notes somewhere, and we could start off anytime. That's the coolness of this medium. Yeah. My personal favorite is like, you can stop a game and play. It's always like a promissory note saying, hey, we'll meet again. We're going to play this game. Yeah. I'm still like, I still remember me playing, like, I still remember, and the funny thing is, you can be like I can still remember games that I played in college. I'm 40 something years old. I'm not going to say, well, okay, I'm 43. All right. So I'm 43 years old. So I remember a college game that was 20. And I met my friend of mine. And he was like, oh my God, remember that game? I was like, yeah, dude. And I'm talking to a friend of mine, and we were like pretty much hanging. If anyone doesn't know, there's a great shop. I'll give them free publicity because they're basically it's right down there. It's Complete Strategist. When I was a kid, that was like my second home. And then the old Jim Hanley's comic book store down the block. So, and three places where you could have played D&D or any type of games back in the day. You could have played in the Complete Strategist. You could play in the Neutral Ground that unfortunately is closed, and you can play in the old version of the Forbidden Planet. Like if you ever been to the Forbidden Planet, the comic book shop Forbidden Planet, they had a second floor in the old store.
Really?
And that's where they sold the D&D games. Is where you buy the D&D games, you played it upstairs, and you just came down. Those old stores are gone, so everybody just hangs out at their house, and that's basically what happens.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact that you have these kids that you're playing that they're going to be in their 50s. Hey, remember when Mr. G made that crazy game about us being like just getting to school? And yeah, that was a crazy game. You don't know where that creativity, you don't know if you were inspired.
Yeah.
You just never knew who you inspired, man, because like yesterday's game, like Kid Gamer could be today's like next, just next big comic guy, like the next, I mean, the guy who, like, right now, like I said, I'm going to use a couple of famous people in comparison. You just never know. Like the kid grows up to be a famous somebody who then still remembers, oh man, I remember playing this in an interview, and you just never know. Like, or a famous, like, I believe right now there is so many people who are like saying, yeah, I used to play D&D too. It's like that old, remember that old Airheads, original movie Airheads?
Oh, of course.
And then, and of course, Brendan Fraser, I used to be a spaz. And you have that crazy code. I played D&D too. Like it feels like that's what we're happening now. Like it's not something we shun anymore.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, listen, I'll always go to the one who I know most famous, Jon Favreau, who was a gamer. I mean, obvious D&D gamer. He worked in comics for a short time.
Yep.
And now look where he is. I mean, this is a guy who built his. You could say whatever about D&D, but you guarantee you that taught him storytelling. Guarantee you. He wouldn't be where he is probably without that game.
Seriously, I know for a fact that Kevin Feige used to talk about him playing toys. Like, I used to take all my toys and play. Like, dude, that's all he's doing right now. Kevin Feige is right now taking all his toys.
It's exactly, but I think that's right for all of us. I mean, kids today, they don't usually play with toys like we played. We had this creative play, and we'd take our action figures and whatever and blah, blah, blah. And we'd have these. But what I used to do is I actually used to draw out characters, cut them out, and then I'd build paper sets and cardboard sets and things, because obviously I couldn't have every toy I wanted as a kid, but I wanted characters to meet that I couldn't have, so I'd make them out of paper, and then I just kind of put away my toys at one point and just started making paper toys for myself. And that helped me learn character design. That helped me learn construction. I was like figuring out architecture. How's something going to hold? How's something going to stay so I can use it to play with and have it last long periods of time? I learned perspective out of it, and all these things to help build all these like little play sets for myself, and vehicles I did too.
The greatest thing a kid could find is an old styrofoam holder. When they used to buy like TVs and radios and stereos, the best thing a kid could do is find that, because then that becomes like a battlefield for them. Like when I used to chop them up and used to play with my toys, and then I used to take clay. Like I used to take clay. I didn't have like if I didn't have a monster, I used to make them in clay. And of course, my G.I. Joes were full of clay and all this other stuff. The styrofoam. My mom would be like, "What's this mess?" This is me in play. Like, this is me just, I would just like stay in my corner and play with all my toys. Who cares? G.I. Joe. And of course, Stretch Armstrong in the center. And of course, I have Ted DiBiase, the old, what's it called? The old wrestling toys.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
a
yeah.
giant monster who fights. I didn't care who he was. And I don't know what I had. Ted DiBiase. That's what I'm saying. I had the Ted DiBiase toy, and I had like the Ultimate Warrior. But I just remember like we had this creative play. As people had gotten older, someone decided to add stats, and
Yeah.
then and then we just never grew up, and we had like our play became like, and it wasn't cool. We weren't like it wasn't cool. It was like at the time, but we used to hang out and play D&D, and I was around with the same scare, and my mom was like an uber Catholic. She did not understand why am I playing this game. I was like, Mom, it's math. And so when she was a school teacher as well, so she saw that there was exponents. She saw there was multiplication. She saw that was like basically an order of operation. She saw that there was a lot of math involved. She's like, wait, this is just like her head spin because she didn't see. She just saw a dragon in the front and a demon, the redheaded demon with the guy ripping out his eye with the demon. She saw that, right? But when she opened the book, she just saw mathematical diagrams. It was like, wait, this is what they're angry about. The first page was the worst thing to a person who was conservative, kind of like, because that imagery does spark faux fear or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I had Latino parents. I had old school thinking parents. If you step out of line, we're going to take care of it. I'm sorry to say that kids are playing video games today, and they are less aggressive than they are when we were around. Mm-hmm. I mean, they'll rage out on Twitter, and they'll rage out on Instagram. That's it. They really don't. I mean, a lot of our community just go. It's a lot of just like fist shaking, and then they go see it anyway. So whatever's going to happen, it's just I love the fact that all these games, all these things were a greater distraction from real life stuff. And actually I also believe that it actually helped me socialize, de-escalate a lot of my anger, also helped me with my own personal therapy. And that can never stop, Yeah. So they decided, hey man, we're going to change the rules so we can get certain cash. And everyone's going to, and I know, I'm sorry to say, a lot of content creators are going to hurt. And it's the saddest thing ever when you see a guy who's just trying to make it. The cool thing is if they can just find another way to get their content out there. Yeah. Like right now, we have to be wait and see.
Yeah. And I know.
And but the game keeps on going. That's it. The game keeps on going.
You know what the sad thing is for me. This is what really is a sad thing for me. Is it was never when that original, gaming license was created. It was meant like even Gygax came out. This is for you. These are guidelines. It's not rules. Make up your own stuff. Just have fun, play the game, share it with people. That's what the goal was. The problem is it eventually became a business, like a real business, and it got sold, and and the people put in charge are people who don't understand the true meaning of the game.
No, they're looking to print the book. Yeah. Or now it's more like printing a paperless book.
Yeah.
But they're looking towards as you can see, you can get your books through any kind of digital medium. You could get yourself in a digital device. If they found a way, they would actually bring this game to a more paperless format.
Yeah.
But you're always going to get the customer who wants the book. You're always going to get that customer. Yeah, I want the cool thing is there is still called nerd cred, where you want the entire book series. And I can't even show you my book series because my book series is on my third floor, and the reception of my phone doesn't even get to the third floor. Yeah. So it's on my third floor. It's next to my DVDs. It's next to my my exclusive stuff, and it's next to my this is my workspace in my bedroom. My main space is on the third floor. Oh, here's the thing. I'm so neurotic. I don't even have an internet where I don't even have internet on the computer I design my work in. Like I don't even have internet. I was like, you know what? If I have internet, I would probably never work. So there's no internet in that computer except for when I do updates. But that's about it. So every single person wants that nerd. If it was up to me, my whole room, but it's a smaller room, I would have my entire room full of just like my D&D books. And I never set this little room up because it's far too small, you know. But everybody wants those books, and they're gonna look for the coolness of it. Is if you're an independent creator, you can go to any. You could go from Amazon to Drive Through RPG. You could even go through like Etsy's and stuff like that. Create your own content, sell it to whoever you want, and you can still make a good profit. Unfortunately, if you were a part of an OGL, you just have to do a wait and see, but you still got to find out if you're going to move. That's right. Like right now, like even my favorite cartoon / D&D setting Critical Role, who kind of I thought brought a new spice to this gaming. Like they really did. You can give them. Everyone calls us the Mark. Was it the Mercer effect? Whatever you want to call it. They want to call it the Mercer effect. Hey, Matt Mercer, God bless you, dude. You decided to take your friends of voice actors and say, hey, let's make a D&D book and let's make play a D&D game. And you started with Pathfinder. You can always go back to Pathfinder. You know, so and that's the beauty of it. Like he's not bogged down to anybody. He goes, well, I can always redo the book. I have a base of loyal fans who are going to follow me wherever I say, and they've trusted that group for years. They have their own intellectual property, and so you could do. I mean, not everyone could have the resources that these guys did, but they were, like I said, a very good model of a true from story from homegrown to pretty much fandom to it's now a commonplace. They even call like I mean it and if you and that's a good model to follow, you know, and a lot of people do follow that model. It does somewhat work. You have Twitch. Me and you can always one day say, hey, let's do this. Except for one night, we'll have like me personally, I would have you, Indira, Derek, oh God, what's his name? I lost his name, but his father was a game designer too. He does I forgot his name.
I don't remember.
His father's a game designer. They do that comic book with Ninja Express group. The whole crew is in Ninja Express.
Oh, I know. I don't know them off the top of my head, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, him and his father is his father's also a game creator as well. Oh God, why did I forget his name? And I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm sorry, I tried to mention you, but I forgot. I forgot his name.
Well, we are live on Twitch right now, so
that's true. Yeah, but yeah, what I want to say is like we can always go on Twitch, have one game. I have a game that's pretty much. I mean, it's not going to be. I remember watching Indira playing. Indira played with her friends. The vampire one. God, Ravenloft, right? Okay. So Ravenloft and all the people who play Ravenloft, you know, was watching, and I loved Ravenloft as a mild young adult, and getting my character killed 1,000 times, turning into a vampire. But that's never here or there. I still would love to play you guys in a game where you guys would love, you know, you would love. It's not going to be really D&D. It's probably going to be a sci-fi.
That's fine.
It's not going to be, and it's not going to be like any sci-fi. It's probably going to be the Oval, so like something like of that nature. You know, the Oval. Is that it? Yeah. You know, Seth MacFarlane, like something funny. like Galaxy Quest.
A show like Orville.
Yeah, like an Orville, like kind of like a Galaxy Quest.
Yeah.
If you guys want the lighthearted stuff, I also have my zombie campaign.
I'm good with lighthearted.
Yeah, all right.
You know, it's not that I don't have it. Well, first of all, like I said, I'm not a big horror fan, and I'm not opposed to some of it in the story. But at the end of the day, if I just the lighthearted stuff's a little more fun to me.
Yeah, like I have, like I want to tell you right now, like I have degrees of like my love for horror. I can't do gore.
Yeah,
I don't understand. Like I like Saw and stuff and all this. I can't do that. Zombies is cool. So I was like, since there's zombies, vampires, the original. If it was made by Hammer Studios, I can enjoy it. You know, it's like it's one of those. Yeah. If you want to enjoy like Quartermass and giant bugs, I'm your guy. You know, like really old school stuff would kind of appear in an Elvira.
Yeah.
Hell, I even do Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. So kind of like that. But kind of lighthearted. But right now, what's my future right now? Because I know we're gonna be, and what's gonna happen for me right now. I don't know. I'm gonna keep on moving. If people want my characters, if you want my background stories, if you want my maps, contact me. If you want, So, like, Mike, what is your most fascinating thing? What do you want to do?
What do you mean, like
what do you see in a game? Like, what was your game that you were trying to do that you said you wanted to do the your Wiz?
I don't want to share the Wiz idea because
No, I understand. No, not share it now, but be like, if I say like, if you want to do the Wiz, it's doable. All you need to do is create it and just put it in drive-through RPG. It's doable.
Yeah, and that was kind of my plan for the story anyway. It was to go through that. I didn't print up a very small amount of books for like shows. I'm actually, we're going to wrap up in a minute, but I will say this, and I think I've said this on the air before, but I'm totally changing my business plan as of this year. I am pushing for more digital content out of my own stuff than I am actual physical. I will have access to physical for those who want it, but my stuff, I'm going more digital these days in content, I think. And,
it's a good medium. You get, people get a good PDF of what they want. They can get it. You know, if they want a physical copy, they can always. I know, you know.
Yeah, you'll have access.
Digital is the way to go because you can always save it somewhere. You can save it 1,000. You can save it into like 100 different hard drives, like I have. I'm
the same way.
What?
I said I'm the same way. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little.
I'm not gonna lose this book that I spend like Comixology is like all my Comixology books. Like, yep, I'm not gonna lose these.
That's another whole topic we could talk about. Comixology. When I read that, I'm like, I have like, oh my god, I probably have at least $100 worth of books into Comixology. And you know what? Some of them are the G.I. Joe series.
No, it's kind of weird. It's like, what if Comixology one day decides, hey, remember all that books you bought and all those books all those comics you bought from us? Yeah, you can't have them anymore. But I bought them. No, we're going to change. We're going to change it so you can't have them.
I purchased. I think it's on Comixology. I have it digitally. The entire omnibus of Scud the Disposable Assassin from the 90s. I don't know if you ever read that.
No.
Basically, the story goes in whatever, I don't think it was a future time period, but in whatever era they lived in, you can get an assassin from a vending machine. And so this guy hires Scud, and Scud doesn't kill his target, but he's in the bathroom of trying to clean up, and he sees in the reflection in the mirror, and it says something like, upon completion of target, this unit will self-destruct. He didn't want to die, so instead of killing the target, he maims the target, and a bunch of stuff happens for him. So he's going on missions to keep the target on life support so he doesn't die. And then something happens and it dies not from his own reasoning, so he doesn't die. And then excuse me, the story goes on, but it never got finished. and then they finished it in the mid 2000s. And I forget the creator's name right now, but he's part of the Rick and Morty team of the creators. He is not he's not the guy who's
He's not
having
Justin
trouble.
Rowland. He's not the
Yeah, and he's not Dan. He's another guy. I can't remember his name, but I loved Scud. It was one of those, like, I don't remember if slave labor put it out, who put it out, but it was one of those independent companies. It was just such a great story. And it's not for kids, I will say that, because there is a romantic relationship in a way between a human and Scud. And so it's a woman who has a thing for robots. So, you know, it was
Oh, they've read Invincibles. They're fine.
yeah, it was the 90s. It was a great book, and that was and when the omnibus came out, I'm like, I can't afford it. And then I found it digitally, and again, I don't know if it's on Comixology, if that's where I got it from or not, but I love that book, and I'm still not done with it because I started reading it from the beginning and put it on pause.
It's kind of strange, but like one of my favorite comic books that I read was something that was given day, like almost weekly, by it's just a D&D creator. It was Gungerfield Court. It's like this girl who's pretty much kind of like a Hermione style character. So it's kind of like, it's like a Harry Potter story. If it was a girl from Hermione, and it was actually a much more darker, kind of like a darker version of like, well, I shouldn't say darker because Harry Potter really gets into the dark, but it was kind of an amazing. It was an amazing book that got picked up by the same people who did Mouse Guard, and of course, Mouse Guard is like another.
Oh, Mouse Guard is fantastic.
Yeah. So David, I met David like 1,000. David Peterson 1,000 times. I bought his T-shirts. I bought his, like, anything that, if I see him personally, I need to buy something from him and have it signed. And I say, hey man, I really love your stuff. But like one of my favorite ones was just like an online comic that pretty much then became like you can read it as a comic book. Like, and that's another thing. Like, I want to do the same thing with my. That's what I really want to do with my games. What I wanted to do was create a series of maps and a series of adventures that comes bi-weekly or bi-monthly, because bi-weekly is a little bit too much of a time constraint.
Yeah.
Like, I love my free time. I don't want to end up like every single mangaka and artist who overworks himself and they don't get to enjoy their fruits of their labors because they got sick or they've died young. I'm not that type of dude. I like to be, you know, and it seems like all the great ones are dying right now. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm going to take care of my health. I'm going to take care of me. I'm looking at you, Mike, because, you know, I'm like, take care of your health too. But, you know.
Oh yeah, I'm Mr. Health issues. It's listen, I'm doing better. I will say this. I won't go into it publicly with everything that's going on with me, but yeah, I am doing my last doctor's visit was basically, you're fat, lose weight. That was which hasn't changed in years. Yeah. But
like, hey, my doctor's, you're grossly. You understand you're grossly obese. I was like, yes, because you can lose weight, right? I was like, all right, and this guy's a no nonsense guy. He doesn't talk to me like this guy. My doctor was like, yeah, you know, and he likes the fact that, you know, he actually understands that I'm an artist too. He goes, do you want to live old enough to be like Jim Lee? I was like, yeah. Keep your health up. Basically, that's how he said. Like, he knows. Like, he basically, you want to live as long as Jim Lee. Like, oh yeah. I do want to Stan Lee. Like, sorry, not Jim Lee, Stan Lee. Stan Lee. Like, do you want to live forever, Stan Lee? Sorry, my brain is thinking something. It's a brain fart right now. But yeah, Stan Lee lived to like his 90s. I said, but he enjoyed what he did in life. So like, that's one of the things, and he did.
And he had bodyguards at shows to protect him.
Man, listen, I worked at those shows. I try to work. I try to be. I was a volunteer, and Stanley was there, and I couldn't be a volunteer that day. And I was like a veteran volunteer guy. You know,
Well,
understand? I was like,
listen,
oh,
I've
only
heard rumors if he didn't have people protecting him, he wouldn't have come out of those shows.
no. I'm telling you right now, other nerds protect him from other nerds. You understand? Like he was one of these guys. Like everyone put a force field around him, protect him with your body. And I've never experienced such a I've never experienced such a nerd uproar when I was like center stage. I was volunteering, and it was Stan Lee at that show, and some dude said, "Okay, we have a special guest," and then all of a sudden, special guest was one of the Spider-Mans. I believe it was the first Spider-Man, and he was like, "Yeah, hi, I'm here." And I forgot his name again, but
One of the actors,
one of the actors who plays Spider, the first one.
Nicholas Hammond, like the
No,
live
no.
action.
No, dude, the one from the new movie, all three of them.
Oh,
Not Tom Harlem, not Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
Yes. So Tobey Maguire, I was there. Tobey Maguire works in the sheer bodies, and I'm like, like, I wasn't here to be a guard today,
Yeah.
And everyone's like, let them go, you're going to die, It's like,
yeah. I can see that. I mean, it's people go nuts for those guys there.
And I'm certain, like, again, going back to D&D, I want Adira, and I'm going to do a game with you guys. I'm going to plan it. We're going to enjoy it.
Dude, you tell me when. You mentioned you had a Facebook page or something?
Oh, yes. I have a Facebook page called Dead Do Walk. The Dead Do Walk is it's everything that was attached to a game that I've had for 20 years.
Wow.
It's a zombie campaign, but since I've been not playing that zombie campaign, I use it for my D&D group, and right now we're playing in the world of Critical Role. So we're not playing Critical Role, we're playing in the world of Critical Role. So we're playing in Alexandria, and my friends seem to enjoy it, and it's usually like a first come, first serve. And
I might want to. Do you mind if I join, not the game, but join just to watch what's going on?
Sure. I believe I'm having a game soon, but I will give you like the link.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I finally got time. So fortunately, I'm back. I'm going to I'm going to push forward.
Yeah.
I'm always open for people who need maps for their games, need maps for their novels, and I think for their comic books as well. I will give you my extensive list of content I worked on. Right now, you can find my work in 3 places, 3 games that you can always find my work in. One is Boss Rush 2000XX. 2000XS, the rise of the machinations. It's really cool. It is like a love story of everything 90s anime, 90s manga. So if you're like into like and we also have like, if you're also into like video game era as well, so it's our love for that. I've been playing, of course, I have another one called Covenant of the Kyber Mark. That's a Dungeons & Dragons supplement that's through an OGL. You can find that Draft RPG. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say, Mike?
No, I think we're gonna wrap up. I just want to say follow Andrew at Andrew Frank Rodriguez Art. I want to actually, you and I can do a hell of a lot more talking here, but this is a good time to end it on. But yeah, I mean, listen, you guys check out his work. You still do live streams on Instagram, correct?
Absolutely. I will have a live stream this Friday, and I'm going to start a whole new masterpiece. I just finished reading a book called Ringworld, which is pretty much the Halo. It's basically the Halo from Ringworld. And I'm drawing a Ringworld. I'm actually drawing a space. Well, not another space. I'm drawing a bigger space theme.
Awesome.
And of course, I trashed it, but I'm going to fix it. You're going to see what I'm going to do.
And you go live Friday. What time?
I go Friday, usually at midnight.
And that's why I don't watch. But I will.
This is what I called my Exomniac era. You know, the R.
Yeah, no, I get those too, but I just can't. I can't, like, if I, excuse me, I have insomnia and I have sleeping issues. I've had them for years. It's medication side effects. And excuse me, I had a burp that just wouldn't come out. Sorry. Anyway, there was that, you know, when I get to that point where I want to stay up, or I don't want to stay up, but I want to go to sleep, if I put on something like your stuff, I'm going to stay up just because I'm going to enjoy watching someone draw,
dude, yeah.
as opposed to being like, I'm going to watch this to put me to sleep. You know, that's
yeah. I'm going to tell you right now. If you hear my voice, I am Andrew from Andrew Frank Rodriguez. Today I'm going to do. I'll feel fine. I need that soothing voice, but no, I have this one, the hyperactive.
Yeah. All right, man. Let me drop you backstage. I want to thank you for coming on. I'll do my closing and I'll meet you backstage in a moment.
No problem. Right?
Thanks again. And where's the mouse? Wrong screen. There we go. All right, guys. So I hope you guys had a fun joining me and Andrew in our conversation here. I hope you guys learned a lot about Andrew's work. Remember, Andrew Frank Rodriguez Art on Instagram. He's going live this Friday at midnight. Going to be drawing another piece. Next week, I'm going to have a really interesting show. Something I haven't talked about on this show really at all. Next week, I'm going to have someone, we're going to be talking Muppets. Now, I will say this, for those who don't know, I did spend some time building and performing puppets, not Muppets, but puppets. And I have learned, and I do know video puppetry, which is basically what the Muppets invented, or what Jim Henson invented, for the most part, through the Muppets. So this will be a very fun talk. I look forward to that. You guys, thank you for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. I will see you guys next week. And like always, have a great rest of your day, weekend, whenever you're watching. If it's in rerun, same thing. Thanks for watching this after the recording. You guys are all great, and I'll see you soon.